From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. Malacañang on Thursday announced that Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has called for the courtesy resignation of all his cabinet secretaries, in a move to realign his administration following the results of the recent midterm elections. In a news release, the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, said the request for courtesy resignations is aimed at giving the President the elbow room to evaluate the performance of each department and determine who will continue to serve in line with his administration's recalibrated priorities. The PCO added that the move is not personal, but about performance, alignment, and urgency. President Marcos said those who have delivered and continue to deliver will be recognized. The PCO said this step marks a clear transition from the early phase of governance to a more focused and performance-driven approach. The chief executive emphasized that while many have served with dedication and professionalism, the evolving needs of the country require a renewed alignment, faster execution, and a results-first mindset. President Marcos, in the premiere episode of his BBM podcast on Monday, said his administration has begun conducting a performance review of cabinet members, signaling potential changes ahead based on the results of the evaluation. The Philippine president said the review is part of a continuing effort to assess government performance and root out inefficiency and corruption, particularly as his administration enters its second half.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, Malacañang announced on Wednesday that Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is willing to engage in reconciliation with all political factions and individuals holding diverse views to ensure the stability of the nation. During a press briefing, Presidential Communications Office, or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro explained that President Marcos's willingness for reconciliation is not limited to a specific individual. In the inaugural episode of his podcast shared on his official Facebook page on Monday, President Marcos conveyed his desire to restore relationships with the Dutertes to achieve stability and peace in the nation. Undersecretary Castro mentioned that reconciling with everyone, not solely the Dutertes, is the appropriate course of action for President Marcos, given that he holds the title of Father of the country. She emphasized that President Marcos seeks to avoid conflicts, underscoring that the chief executive aims to foster positive relationships with all Filipinos. Castro also emphasized that reconciliation should occur without any preconditions, as this is what is most beneficial for the people and for the country.
Ang pakikipagkasundo po ay para sa taong bayan, hindi para sa personal na interes ng iba. Alalahanin po natin, maliwanag, uulit-ulitin ko ang sinabi ng Pangulo, sa lahat ng tao, gusto niya pong makipagkasundo para magkaroon ng stability, magampanan ang dapat magampanan at hindi madiskaril ang trabaho ng gobyerno. Ayaw po niya ng away. So ang awayan na to, ang siya nagpapabagal sa trabaho ng gobyerno dahil puro paninira. Puro fake news na natatanggap ng Pangulo. So ang pakikipagkasundo sa lahat, hindi lamang para sa mga Duterte, ay tama lang po na gawain ng Pangulo bilang ama ng bansa. Magsasakripisyo na siya kahit siya na po yung sinisiraan, kahit siya na po yung binibigyan na maling kwento at binibigyan at ginagawa ng peke na video. Yan po ang dapat na gawin talaga ng isang ama ng bansa. Salamat po.
That was Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Wednesday, Malacañang announced that the termination of former Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA Director Arnel Ignacio and Deputy Administrator Emma Sinclair serves as a clear indication that Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. does not tolerate corruption. Presidential Communications Office or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed that Ignacio and Sinclair were dismissed due to their alleged involvement in the OWA's dubious 1.4 billion peso land acquisition deal that lacked approval from the agency's Board of Trustees. Undersecretary Castro informed Palace reporters that the president had lost his trust and confidence in both Ignacio and Sinclair.
Sinabi po natin na si former OWA Administrator Arnel Ignacio, hindi po siya nag-resign, siya po ay tinanggal. Dahil sa mga anomalyang nabanggit na po ito ni Secretary Hans Kakdak. At maliban po dyan, mayroon pa pong isa na makakasama, ang Deputy Director na si Emma Sinclair. Pareho po silang tinanggal, hindi po sila pinag-resign. Ito lamang po ay isang senyales, maaari nating sabihin na ito ay panawagan ng Pangulo sa lahat ng mga nagtatrabaho sa ilalim niya. Nagampanan ninyo ang inyong trabaho. Huwag tanggalin ang pangluloko o lokohan sa inyong pagtatrabaho dahil hindi po mangingimang Pangulong tanggalin kayo sa pwesto. You will all be fired kapag hindi nyo tinupad ang inyong mga obligasyon sa bayan.
On May 16th, Malacañang announced that President Marcos had appointed Department of Migrant Workers or DMW Undersecretary Patricia Yvonne Caunan as the new administrator of OWA, succeeding Ignacio. On May 17th, Undersecretary Caunan disclosed that DMW Secretary Hans Leo Magpayo is conducting an investigation into the land purchase agreement made by OWA during Ignacio's tenure. Secretary Kakdak stated on Tuesday that the ongoing inquiry into the OWA's 1.4 billion peso land deal will not exempt anyone, emphasizing the importance of accountability and public trust. He mentioned that the DMW is examining the alleged procedural errors and absence of proper authorization in the acquisition of land situated near Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Terminal 1 in Parañaque City, intended for a halfway house project or dormitory-style accommodations for overseas Filipino workers or OFWs.
Dateline Malacañang.
Still on Wednesday, Malacañang extended an invitation to qualified young Filipinos to take part in the paid internship program offered by the Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD and gain experience in public service. Presidential Communications Office or PCO Undersecretary and Palace Press Officer Claire Castro encouraged eligible students to seize the opportunity provided by the DSWD's Government Internship Program or GIP, highlighting the program's advantages of both practical training and financial compensation. The GIP aims to prepare the youth with hands-on skills that are relevant for employment, especially within government agencies, while also offering monetary assistance. Applications are open to college students aged 18 to 25, with a preference for those who will be in their third or fourth year during the upcoming academic year. The monthly family income of applicants must not exceed the latest regional poverty threshold set by the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA. Undersecretary Castro mentioned that there are 75 internship positions available at each of the 16 DSWD field offices, while 35 interns will be accepted at its main office in Quezon City. Interns will be compensated with a stipend that equals 75% of the current regional minimum wage for a work period of 30 days. They will be tasked with various administrative duties such as data entry, document organization, and liaising with other government entities. The DSWD noted that from 2017 to 2024, nearly 8,000 college students have benefited from this initiative. Applicants are encouraged to communicate with Verlan Rosales, Youth Program Focal Person of the Sectoral Programs Division of the DSWD's Protective Services Bureau. Students from the different regions may contact their respective DSWD field offices and look for the Youth Program Focal Person.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other Malacañang news, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. greeted the international cast and crew of the forthcoming romantic comedy The Last Resort at Malacañang Palace on Wednesday, highlighting what he called a source of pride for the Philippines. The film, which takes place in the country, stars a prominent cast including Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich, both recognized for their roles in the Star Wars series. Also in attendance were actors Sam Neill, Beck Bennett, and Dylan Menor, alongside respected director Donald Petrie from How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Academy Award-winning cinematographer Russell Carpenter from Titanic, and a production crew that features Filipino executives and producers. The President conveyed his excitement about the project and its capacity to present the Philippines to an international audience. He commended the film's producers, including well-known Filipino businessman and executive producer Manny V. Pangilinan, as well as lead producer Bong Santamaria. He stressed the significance of narratives that showcase Filipino culture and landscapes. Petrie also helmed popular romantic comedies such as Miss Congeniality featuring Sandra Bullock and Just My Luck starring Lindsay Lohan and Chris Pine.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, announced that the Marcos administration plans to build a new and extended bridge next to the current San Juanico Bridge. DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan mentioned that the significant rehabilitation efforts for the San Juanico Bridge led the government to initiate a new bridge project, which will span approximately 2.6 kilometers. The San Juanico Task Group, or SJTG, was established to manage security, traffic flow, and safety measures due to worries regarding the structural soundness of the San Juanico Bridge, which links the islands of Samar and Leyte. Built in 1969 under President Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr., the San Juanico Bridge stretches 2.16 kilometers and continues to be a crucial economic and transport route in eastern Visayas. A weight limit of 3 tons was imposed on the structure after engineers expressed concerns about its ability to bear loads. Secretary Bonoan mentioned that retrofitting is currently in progress for those sections of the San Juanico Bridge deemed deteriorated and hazardous for heavy loads. Bonoan mentioned that the Philippine Ports Authority, or PPA, is developing alternative paths from Luzon to Leyte that avoid the San Juanico Bridge to ensure safer travel for drivers. He also noted that the weight limit on the San Juanico Bridge could be raised to a maximum of 10 tons by the end of 2025 once the retrofitting of its sections has been finalized.
Now, this is now in the works, yung ano nito, because the new bridge is now under preparation. In fact, this will be one of the flagship projects under this administration. And ito po ay mafi-finance ng Japanese government. It's now under detailed engineering design. We hope that the detailed engineering design will be completed by 2026, and thereafter, the construction will follow immediately. And ang plano ko dito talaga is pag natapos po itong tulay na ito po yung kuwan ng tulay na gagawin na perspective na yung tulay na gagawin doon nearby. And actually, pag natapos ito, dapat isasara po yung original, yung existing San Juanico Bridge para magkaroon na ng major rehabilitation works.
That was Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Manuel Bonoan.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, said an allocation of over 1.4 billion pesos will be designated for the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, to carry out and oversee the implementation of the Payapa at Masaganang Pamayanan, or PAMANA program, in support of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s initiative to foster enduring peace and development. Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman has authorized the release of the Special Allotment Release Order, or SARO, to meet the funding requirements for the PAMANA program. The initiative consists of targeted interventions aimed at addressing conflict and enhancing peace-building initiatives while aiding reconstruction and development in areas affected by conflict and vulnerability. It is being carried out through two main approaches: the PAMANA Peace and Development Project and the PAMANA Local Government Unit, or LGU-led livelihood track. The PAMANA Peace and Development Project aims to empower regions and indigenous communities that are vulnerable or impacted by conflict by ensuring better access to essential services and creating a platform for the communities to propose projects that address their needs. For capacity building efforts in 198 target communities within the Cordillera Administrative Region, or CAR, Ilocos Region, Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Western Visayas, Central Visayas, Northern Mindanao, and Caraga, the project will receive an allocation of 351.071 million pesos. On the other hand, the PAMANA LGU-led livelihood track includes livelihood support programs that are implemented alongside the LGUs to complement the community sub-projects that fall under the PAMANA Peace and Development track. Its objectives is to enhance the socio-economic conditions of beneficiaries in areas affected by conflict and vulnerability, steering them toward sustainable development. A total of 1.049 billion pesos will be allocated for the PAMANA LGU-led livelihood track, targeting 981 areas for sustainable livelihood associations in regions such as CAR, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol Region, Western Visayas, Negros Island Region, Zamboanga Peninsula, and Caraga. According to the DBM, the budget allocated for the PAMANA program will be charged against the DSWD specific budget outline in the 2025 General Appropriations Act, or GAA.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines Department of Information and Communications Technology, or DICT, plans to introduce the Presidential Action Center, or PAC, on the eGovPH mobile application, creating a one-stop shop for government support. In a recent interview on Bagong Pilipinas Ngayon aired on PTV on Wednesday, DICT Undersecretary David Almirol Jr. announced that the PAC will be launched in the next couple of weeks and will provide a range of government services all under one roof. The PAC offers additional services such as scheduling a passport appointment online through the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA or applying for a national ID. To access the services provided by the PAC, users need to sign up for the eGovPH app and utilize the PAC feature for seamless verification. Certain services like medical aid or funeral support will require documents such as medical certificate, a prescription, or a death certificate. The PAC might also offer legal support through the Public Attorney's Office or PAO.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippines Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has teamed up with the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, to assist returning overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, in reintegrating into their communities through business development and innovation based on science and technology, or SNT. In a press release issued on Wednesday, the DMW announced that this initiative, in collaboration with Entrepinoy Volunteers Incorporated, or EVFI, provides OFWs and their families with access to business development resources, innovation support, and funding opportunities. EVFI, a non-profit entity, offers guidance to Filipino entrepreneurs by utilizing expert volunteers and executives to enhance their global competitiveness. The initiative combines DOST's Innovations for Filipinos Working Distantly from the Philippines, or IFWDPH, program with the DMW's current reintegration programs promoting a more comprehensive and forward-looking approach to business development. Andrea Luisa Anulin, Director of DMW's National Reintegration Center for OFWs, stated that the program is in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to bolster support systems for returning OFWs, facilitating their smooth and effective transition back home. The initial phase of the program was launched on Tuesday at the DMW office in Makati City, gathering implementers and key personnel to provide further guidance to OFWs about the opportunities available through the initiative. These opportunities encompass access to technologies created by DOST's research and development institutions that are adapted to meet specific business needs, opportunities, and challenges. DOST National Capital Region, or NCR Regional Director Romelen Tresvalles emphasized the significance of working together with the DMW to support returning OFWs. The program focuses on improving technology in several sectors, including food processing, beverage production, crop and livestock farming, manufacturing of fabricated metal products, information and communication, science and technology consultancy, furniture making, and other key industries recognized by the Regional Development Council.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.